Those in power just feel like they can just do anything, right? And destroy people's lives with no regard.
There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him that it is right.
I'm not going to cite another cool planet. I'm not going to, his friends were listening to me and said, don't be an idiot.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us for day 204 at GGY. So, as usual, we have our regular crowd here. We have Chiranta, Imran, Manik, Leisha, Tassie and Chris. But we also have a very special guest today. I think we made an announcement through our page that we will be joined by Hejaaz Hizbullah. Thank you so much, Hejaaz, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and we love being here today.
Thank you so much. So we have been as a group engaged in what we like to call citizen activism, right? This is what we are doing. We started as a result of the Aragalaya because we were a group that was inspired by what was happening at GGG. That's why we emulated them by calling ourselves GGY. So GGY initially was Go to Go Yaya, which we have now changed it to Good Governance Yaya, because I think that's more apt now. But
I like how you've got the Yaya, the Yaya crowd has got the Yaya.
Right, we got to keep the Yaya. We don't want to lose the Yaya, right? That's who we are. So you didn't know that. So we're GGY, Good Governance Yaya. So the reason we feel like we need to do this, Hejaaz, continuously is because since the Aragalaya has technically ended that particular phase, activism to a certain extent has been maligned. Has been linked to things like house burnings and various things, and it was very easy to, especially the leaders of GGG, were maligned quite badly afterwards, right? They tried to paint them as druggies and arsonists and various things. Whereas we feel like we have a privilege because we are maybe Colombo middle class, we are Intimidikasyaya, and we have been largely left alone to do this. Which means we have some sort of a privilege, and we feel like it's our duty to continue doing this on behalf of all those people who can't. And also everything we fought for is still valid to this day, right? Like nothing that we have fought for other than getting rid of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, everything else, the system change part of it, abolishing the executive presidency, I mean all of the things that it's still there, and corruption is still rampant. I think Leisha will talk about that a little bit later on. Chris has his list as well, so we will go on to all of that. But we have you here today because we have spoken about you continuously. We held boards. We kind of highlighted whenever we could, opportunity, because it was an injustice, and this is exactly the kind of thing that we are fighting to change, right? That impunity. This kind of
system change and accountability.
Right. I mean, those in power just feel like they can just do anything, right? And destroy people's lives with no regard. So let me give a little introduction to you. So you were a human rights defender for a long time. You were kept in detention for 22 months under the PTA. You were arrested on the 14th of April 2020. And you were accused by the police of aiding and abetting Inshaf Ahmed, who was involved in the Easter bombings, an accusation that has since been withdrawn, right? Yeah. So and I think even the allegations against you has changed.
Yes, it's morphed a lot.
It's morphed a lot since then, right? So since the time of your arrest, you've been repeatedly denied the right of due process, I believe. And the case is still ongoing, so I think you can tell us a little about that. You're an attorney and a minority rights advocate. You fought against hate speech against the Muslim community. I think you began your career at the Attorney General's Department and started your own practice in 2012. And you have litigated in several important cases before the Supreme Court as well, I believe, and also you're a Thomian.
Yes.
Right.
Headcon?
No, no.
But you debated, I think, no?
Yes, I was a captain of the debating team.
Right. Okay. So, and I think you fought against the dissolution of Parliament in 2018, I believe, right? When that whole constitutional coup happened.
Yes, there were only, if I remember correct, there were only 2 lawyers who were not President's Council in that team, you and Suren Fernando. Is that correct?
Suren and even no, there were few. Suren,
Okay, all right.
Iran, Korea, Valiamuna.
Okay. No, so I think I'm referring to June.
June, yes.
Just you and Suren,
Me and
correct?
Suren, me and
That's
Suren,
right.
yes.
Yeah. So let me start things off by asking you a question, Hejaaz, and then we can continue. So when the arrest came, right? What put you on their radar? Like why did they target you specifically for this? Was it the work that you had been doing previously with, what was the reason that they decided that you were the one that they needed to put in this position?
Right. So it's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
And it's loaded with a lot of risk. The answer is loaded with a lot of risk.
Right.
And this is also a question that I have, and me, my family, my lawyers, and all my supporters, people who have been backing me, have been asking, why him?
Yeah.
But I think my arrest had a lot to do with how they were going to, how the Easter Sunday script, the final end piece was going to be written, and I think my arrest had a lot to do with that. And I think there was a need to sort of fix it on somebody. And I feel this is a hunch. I could be wrong, but this is a hunch. That's why I'm saying my answer would be completely off track. So that was one thing that I feel was part of it, and that's why my name got thrown in as the Anton Balasingham of the National Tawhid Jamaat. That I was like the Mahamulakaru. Right. So, and this is also what the CID was telling me at the inside. The officers were saying, it's like, okay, I'll share this. It's like, so I was in a cell. It's a very large big room, actually not a cell, just a big room. And then next to me was the main cell on the CID, shared by a group including Madush, Makandura Madush, and then Naufal Maulana, the deputy of who was second in command of the National Tawhid Jamaat. So they were all in that cell. So one day, at around 11 o'clock, an SSP walked in, and you have these visits by SSPs at middle of the night. It's part of welfare, just to check if the suspects are all okay, if they're sleeping, and they wake up 1 or 2 people and they say, "Do you have your dinner? Did you eat? Are you okay? Are you getting your medicine?" And they go off. So I was fast asleep when SSP walked in. He woke up Naufal Maulana and he was talking to him. And they have a chat, and they have a friendly chat. And then he said, "Naufal," then I can speak in Sinhala.
Yes.
Naufal, then what? Then he said, no, obviously he knows who he is and what's being charged of and what his involvement is. Then he laughed and said, "No, I heard this," and he said, "Nah, Allah to celebrate then right? So that was one thing. And I also feel there was also, since 2012, the anti-Muslim hate is not organic. It's not coming from the people. It's planted. There's someone putting that into people. It's orchestrated. It's orchestrated. And part of the orchestration was also people like Dr. Shafi, targeting people like me, banning various organizations, targeting Muslim politicians, etc. So, and of course, I was a pain in the neck. Right? I was a pain in the neck. I was fighting the wrong cases. I was doing the wrong things. So they just want to finish. Also, so they were looking at somebody to put here, and then they also thought, okay, he's a nuisance anyway. So let's
put him.
Let's put him there.
So certainly your religion and your community, your race would have helped.
Yes.
Very much.
Yes,
correct?
Much, yes.
To be convenient.
Can you tell us a little bit about those high-profile cases? Because I think that was a thorn in their side, right?
Yes. One thing that, of course, is not high profile, but one thing that I've been consistently doing is working against hate speech and about what people like Dana Sarateva have been doing. And the Muslim community, I must say, is a community that does not have a voice. right? We don't have a voice in parliament. The parliamentarians do not really speak on Muslim issues. That's a real problem that the community has. And also even civil society organizations do not, national level civil society organizations do not talk about it. We have, like, for example, we have the ACJU, the Muslim Council, and so many other national level Muslim organizations who don't speak on things like Islamophobia, hate speech. They don't. They choose to be quiet, safe, and in the good books, and they're always playing it safe. So we have had individuals. So it has fallen on certain individuals to sort of contribute. And so, being a lawyer and seeing all this that's happening in the countries post 2012, so much of hate, and then I see people who I live in Colombo. I've lived all my life in Colombo, cosmopolitan society, move with all ethnicities. It became uncomfortable for me to live in that community when you have people saying, don't go and eat with Muslims, just speak 3 times and serve the food. I mean, how would my friends look at it? And I could see this happening. I actually saw this happening.
People were buying into the rhetoric.
People were buying into this, and that was a problem for me personally. So, am I talking to? No,
please.
So,
normally you can't stop us.
So I'll give an example. So we were doing a case in Anuradhapura, right? And I was doing this case with 2 other lawyers, Anandians, strong Buddhists, and we were very good friends. And then we would drive the previous day to Anuradhapura, stay overnight, go to the case in the morning, and come home. And the drive starts at my house. They come home and we have dinner together.
Right.
And then we leave at my place. Then we had this famous Kandy meeting where a Buddhist monk said that the Muslims spit 3 times into the food and serve it. One day these guys came and said, oh, no dinner for us, we've had dinner.
Shit.
Right? That I was like, I didn't think too much. I said, that's fine. Okay? And then we went and we drove. And all along the way, they avoided having any meals as such with me or anything like that. This was a bit so troubling. These guys are acting weird. And then I thought about it. I mean, we never had a conversation about it. We never had a conversation. But I felt that this was something. So this is what then pushed me towards working against people like Dhanasara and all that. So some of the litigation that Dhanasara is currently complaining, I was part of advising complainants and representing them and all that. Of course, high profile like the one that everybody talks about.
Forced cremations.
Well, before that, the Constitutional.
The 2018
Constitutional case. And then I also was representing Dr. Shafi initially until I got bailed. And then the last thing I was involved in was the cremation.
The first cremations.
Yes. Of course, I could do anything much. I was locked up myself.
Of fundamental cases, fundamental rights cases that you had against the state, fundamental rights cases that you had against the state, and apparently won, and your opposite was undecided. He was Justice Minister then. I think. Do you think there is some sort of professional, vindictiveness here?
No, I wouldn't say that. For the reason that, of course, Nisari Sabri is a very talented lawyer, right? And by the time I entered the profession, he was a giant on his own right. So I don't think there is any. I mean, it's not correct to say that there was any sort of professional interest. I was not at all a threat at all. No, I wouldn't say that it had any role to play.
I think he has some issues with sleeping though. He has sleepless nights. I think recently.
At the same hand, I don't see people very noise or you sort of make a statement against your thing. Even being a Justice Minister, I mean, as a minister, I think he should serve everybody equally. So I have never seen a statement, questioning as to why you were put in, or for that matter, I don't know why. How do you feel about his silence on your case?
I think I've spoken to him about this, not about this, but I have spoken to him, and he was one of the first few people I contacted soon after I was released on bail. Because I know him personally, and he's someone I've looked up to as a senior member in the bar. I understand his difficulties because he was very close to the regime that was doing this, and so he was in a very uncomfortable position. But I also have, but I'm sure he did what he could do from where he was and in positions he was within the limits that were there, and maybe it's not his style to sort of make public statements.
Yeah, so, I think where Imran comes from in that sense, Hejaaz, is that being a member of the Muslim community, I think that is where because the disappointment comes from, right? For the
that disappointment it runs throughout the entire Muslim political leadership. Right. We had people like Rauf Faki, we had people like Mujibur Rahman also speaking vocally and also supporting me. Mujibur Rahman was in my house when I was being arrested. He drove there, he heard about it and he came there.
Right.
But the rest, not only on my issue, I'm not the most important Muslim community issue. There are lots of bigger issues, and the political leadership is completely silent on those things. For example, I'll give you an example, and that's I tweeted about it. On May 18, four people were arrested. I think 2 or 3 of them were from the Kuppam district. And that was the day when the solitary MP, Muslim MP, was got arrested
at the airport.
At the airport smuggling gold.
Yeah.
So he should have been, and he should have been in Parliament. Of course, he came to Parliament, but he got in any statement or anything. To embarrass to do that, I suppose. He should have been in the forefront of talking about the injustice that happened to his constituents. But where was he? He was caught smuggling gold.
Yeah. So Hejaaz, to bring it back to that time, we are all parents here. So one of the things that was difficult for us to sort of comprehend in your situation was that you had a newborn baby that you hadn't seen, right? Your wife gave birth to a daughter, I believe, while you were in detention. And I think subsequently you had a son as well now, so congratulations. So how did you cope with that situation? How did your family cope? And how are you all doing now? And also how were you treated inside in general during that time?
Okay, how did we cope? It's very painful. With my family? Yes. How much was it? Yeah. So when I was in the CID, that was a period of 10 months, I could see my wife came to see me every Saturday, and they gave her 10 minutes, right? Yeah, that's it. But of course, it was flexible. I mean, it depends on who was handling the visit. If it was a fair guy and he extended it about 15 minutes, but then the guy was stickler for the rules is 10 minutes time out. It was like that. So I was able to meet my wife every day, every week. I saw my daughter for the first time in the CID car park, surrounded by crystals.
Right.
So I still tell her about it.
So she must be what, 3 now? 3?
She's turning 3 this
3.
month.
Okay.
How old was she when you saw her?
Few days. She was born, and then a few days later I was able to see her. Yeah. It was tough. It was very tough, and it was even tougher because they were saying things about my wife, and they were saying that the wife is about to be arrested. So it was very tough for me, and I think you all know how Sarat Veerasekara made a statement that his wife is also a terrorist.
Really?
In Parliament. Yes, he made a statement that he is also so we will have our visit, and I'll be staying here and then you will have my wife is to come, so it's table and she's about to enter the room to clean, and suddenly the room will get filled with police officers.
Worked up.
Anxious,
Yeah.
nervous, scared, because are they going to arrest her now? So we had those moments. Yeah, that's right.
They can take it on the restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, we see that even the detention part is part of the punishment. The fact that you don't get your due process rights, right? So how exactly were your due process rights violated?
Well, one thing was that I was not able to communicate with my lawyers.
Yeah.
I was not able to communicate with my lawyers freely.
Sorry, as a PTA detainee, do you have that right? You should have that right.
Anybody should have that.
Should have that.
Anybody
Even a
should have
PTA
that.
detainee.
It's a basic right. You're a suspect. You should have access to your lawyers. You should be able to go into a room, closed, soundproof, nobody is not listening in, and have a chat with your lawyer.
Yeah.
You should have that right to know what's happening, tell him what's happening, right? To learn about what's going on. So you're denied of that right.
Can I just go off topic for a second?
Yeah.
I've heard that many people who go to CID, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I'm asking
Yeah,
this. People who go to CID are not allowed
The lawyer beyond a certain point. Right?
Is that correct or not?
Well, a person who go to the CID to record a statement does not have a lawyer with him, right? But he has access to his lawyer, who he is able to talk to.
But normally
But-
they are not allowing lawyers to.
Yeah, well, that's well, we could say that that's all right. That's all right, because those statements cannot be used as evidence.
Oh, okay.
Right, so to that extent, that's all. You're just going to tell them what you know, and then you decide what you want to say, etc. So you get legal advice and you talk about it. But you have access to a lawyer. So I get up in the morning, I go meet my lawyer, I get his advice, and then I go to the CID, and then come back and I talk to my lawyer again, and I go home. There, your rights are to somewhat extent protected. But if you're a PTA detainee, you're eating, sleeping, drinking, doing everything for prolonged months. For 10 months, you're with the in the CID, and you don't get to speak to your lawyer. Now that's where your rights are being violated.
So just going on the topic now. To the topic. Now you said now when I was taken in, and they basically gave they showed me, they didn't say why I was arrested in 2020. The suspecting what I said to the suspecting what they arrested me, and they charged me. They didn't say what I was wrong. They just took me from home. And then when I asked about what they are trying to charge me, they didn't say. Then after like the next day, they were delivering about section 120. Then he showed part of section 120, because there's a description below section 120 that things that is stored against the government in the intention of not causing violence is not an offense. There's a description. That part they didn't show. I said, you are holding only one part of the thing. No, I want to access my lawyer. Then they I felt disadvantageous not having the lawyer there, because they are telling me that I have broken section 120. Then they have to go to the attorney general and get approval to file the case. But they are just coming in, without showing the other parts. They are just, showing us you have violated it. So I feel it's very disadvantageous. Even though we say like it doesn't bind, those are non-binding statements. Their actions based on those non-binding statements are very real. Like they can say, okay, here, if I say now after the mom varadi mata so mama PTA mama so mama if I give a statement like that, thinking that giving the wrong interpretation of the law, very disadvantageous to not have a law, even though it's not binding.
Yes. I would agree with you to that extent that having someone with you who is able to advise you is very important, and also and the next thing and the more important thing is this how the police needs to behave? Is this coercive interrogation tactics? I mean, these are things that we need to talk about.
And also, if you look at high-profile cases like yours, like Rafi's, recently with the Canadian, we have seen how laws can be
misused or even weaponized in a very specific way. So they would even use things that are in the actual act against people in a malicious way, right? So without a lawyer, I don't know how you're supposed to, like, you wouldn't know how to tackle all that, right?
In my case, now I'm accused of giving a speech.
Yeah, I think that's the last. That's where the case stands now, right?
I'm accused of giving a speech at the Al Zuria Madrasa in August 2018. I was in the CID for 10 months. Do you know when they actually told me this is what we are going to charge you for? On the last day. On the last day, when I am about to be produced in court at 1 o'clock, I will actually produce at about 4 o'clock. At around 11 o'clock is when they tell me, this is the allegation we want you to answer to. So that was the last day. So until that was they were just because they were just fishing. They were just fishing around trying to see come up with something, and then that was
the most
voyage of discovery.
Discovery is not allowed by law, right?
Exactly. That's why you need to give the reason for the arrest. Because then you want to fix them, but then the reason is one thing, the charge is something else.
Yeah, so these are bad faith actions, right? These are all acts in bad faith because they're trying to do something, they're trying to pin something on you. I mean, that's the way we see it. So where does your case stand now? And is it still under the PTA? I mean, and what are your general thoughts about the PTA and then the ATA that they're trying to bring in?
Well, my case is, I think you would all see, we had a very good day of last Friday where one particular witness said that all the thing that he said about me was not true, and he was being asked to say this. And this is not like a lone, like one solitary witness saying that. I mean, this has been from the beginning. People have come out and said we have been forced to say things against him. We have been forced to say things against him from day one. So there are lots of people who have been saying this. The trial goes on. The trial has another day where the same witness will continue to give evidence, and his evidence hopefully will conclude on the next date. Then I think the prosecution will have to make a decision as to whether they want to proceed or whether they want to say that there is no case. So
just quickly, buddy. So the AG, his master is the law, right? Technically. So doesn't he have a duty to, at this stage, because now they have tried to throw a whole bunch of stuff at the wall and nothing sticks. I mean, shouldn't they at least, now just say, oh, you know what? There's nothing here. There's no there. And take a call. I mean,
as a former
yeah, I mean, no.
I would say he
law, right? He serves the law.
And I mean, that's actually now people ask me, you must be relieved, but actually I'm not, because what next? What will they try next? Right. So it's always when will this end? What will they try to do next? Now that this is not so going along for them so well, so what will they try? So I mean, if it was any other case, certainly what you say is correct, because they ought to make a call on this and decide whether they are going to proceed or not. But let's hope so. Let's hope he does that.
Hejaaz, there were 5 charges against you. Where do you stand with that now?
But I mean, the trial is going on, and I don't think I can say anything.
Okay.
We can't talk about these things, but we can talk about the general perspective of this youth and the responsibility of the AG. I mean, come on. They are now taking the witnesses onto the stands and then coming to the conclusion. I mean, if you look at the international perspective of the law, I mean, enforcement of law and how an AG, like in the United States, you get the ADAs, President District Attorney. They go through the bloody evidence beforehand and then only decide before. I mean, they don't come to the middle of the thing and say, no, we don't feel like prosecuting further, we are not going to carry on. They have to be sure that they are what they are violating first. And then he also said about what you are saying is very true. You remember that there was a small child some Hejaaz Hizbullah or some child's murder, there was a boy who was caught for having some pornography with computer. 17-year-old boy was caught for having some pornography, and they tried to malign that boy that he was the person who raped the small girls. Hejaaz Hizbullah.
Raped and killed, no?
Yeah. So that, you know, that boy who later they messed up, no, they found out, then they let go, I mean, they found the real person and then the whole child got released. But they later didn't know, they came and the child planting drugs.
So this is part of the system change we're fighting, right?
But isn't that what our Justice Minister said, the police plant drugs?
And that is what I'm really scared of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what. Those are the things that I'm worried. So now that this is sort of in some way we have this development, what are they planning next?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at where are my blind spots, where are the places that can be scared.
No, Hejaaz, I mean, that's something that you will. Now, justice needs to say that the police basically starting with. What do you feel about it?
Absolutely true.
That's true.
To get a drug conviction, you need only 3 police officers. To get a drug conviction, you need 4 police officers, right? But actually, you need only 3. 4th is just a formal witness. Are you running for a
No, right. Please carry on. We have plenty of stuff. I know I'm just feeling very uncomfortable listening to some of this stuff. It's so uncomfortable.
So, and now for example, in a normal drug case, you would have one police officer saying, I received information that X is dealing in drugs, I went there, who do you go with? Y and Z. 2 other police officers, all work in the same group, same office, day and night, they eat together. We go there and we arrested him. What did you see? In his pocket there was this little round ball with a cellophane and plastic or whatever polythene cover, and then I took it out and the brown liquid, brown powder, it's heroin. And then they go and say, we handed it over to the police officer at the Narcotics Bureau Reserve, and he said, yes, I looked at it, this was like blah blah blah. That's all you need to convict the person and give him a death penalty. Just 4 police officers working hand in glove.
And we know that if they want to destroy someone, they
That's
don't think twice about
yes.
it. They don't think twice about it.
And it's
Consequences.
And it's freely thrown. I mean, if you go to police stations and you talk back and act smart, within inward smart with the police, they say,
That's the thing, and it's very open. Right? So Hejaaz, coming back to PTA, what are your thoughts on the PTA and the new law that they're trying to bring in? I mean, do you think it will make things better, or is it just more of the same?
No. The PTA PTA had a group they had in mind, and that was the insurgents and the fighting, the terrorism that was going on in the north. ATA, who are you targeting?
The definition.
Right. So who are you targeting? Obviously, you're targeting people, trade unions, civil society groups, all of that. Right. So if the ATA comes in, I have in the form that we have seen. A meeting like this can be stopped, arrested, and you can be locked up. Yeah, and another thing is that what the government throws in is that, well, the PTA there was 18 months, but the ATA is just, we can only keep a guy for 3 months at a go. But the point is, keeping someone who's fighting in the jungle, who's trained, and him for 18 months, from a guy from Timbrigas who's working and who has a family and all of that, him for 3 months. That's 3 months enough to finish war. Finish anyone off. That's enough intimidation. So these so-called concessions are not really concessions, because for the target audience has changed, and so the ATA as a law is horrendous.
Yeah, so we have actually as a group been fighting against the ATA from the start. We make the point that we oppose it up.
I think Hejaaz Rajapaksa and Sadia Piri's, there was a talk in TV, all of them, they discussed the ATA. and they couldn't even answer. I mean, there are certain things that Ambika, she got some valid points, and he couldn't answer. They said, they'll have to get back. Vijayadasa was very wavy in saying that, this could be allowed, and he was not cut and right. So, like you say, if the cops can be influenced to do such things, I'm sure even the prosecuting, lawyers, they also can be influenced or be
police
pushed.
The police.
Absolutely.
And then even if the AG acts in such a manner, so it's
now Justice Minister says that this is possible. So at that moment, I thought he's just doing this to get some attention, which probably was. So you say, I'm asked you, and you say, yes, it is happening. So what happens next? The Justice, as citizens, I'm telling, ask you as citizens, what we see is Justice Minister comes and says this. It's in the news. It goes quiet. Justice Minister comes and says, this guy Chamara, somebody has taken so many $1 million to put in the wrong case, Express Pearl. It's in the news. I mean, everybody says, oh, and it's
accountability.
What is happening after that?
Where is the accountability?
So if the police are doing this, if the Justice Minister says this, and I thought maybe one off, but then if you as a lawyer, you all have cases, if you also say it's happening, what is the next step? Nothing. It's nothing.
This is the thing, accountability.
Well, the next step should be for the person who was wrongly arrested to go against the police, to file a case against the police. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do that? Who wants to spend money doing that? Who wants to take the personal risk of doing that? And let's say something does happen, will the rest of society stand with them? So, actually we should have a inbuilt system within the police or in some government apparatus that if you have wrongly arrested somebody and something like this happened, you need to pay for it.
Right. System of accountability.
There must be some system of accountability. It's not there. It's not there.
Because actually I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
I'm saying the Justice Minister says this about
I
the
know,
police.
but that is
What
the
police? So the IG, they come out and give a statement and say, no, you're lying. But the police, they do not say anything.
Yeah.
Does that mean they accept it?
Because we live in the same country. We live in the same.
That's the case. Everything.
Yeah.
Even the young girl who just died at the Kandy hospital.
Yes.
Who's talking about it?
No, but
Who's demanding something for her?
Well, I mean, we
are talking about it, but who's demanding something?
That's the thing. Well, the minister using parliamentary privilege says not everybody who goes into a hospital comes out alive. That's why there are funeral parlors outside.
Prisoners.
So I mean that is the lack of empathy and the psyche of the people that are in charge.
I just hope
Can
can
I-
they
can I-
vote more wisely next time.
Right. So can I just bring it back? Hejaaz, what do you think about the state of human rights and fundamental rights as it is right now under this administration? Because we have a president who came with credentials as a liberal Democrat and all that, and acceptance of Western governments and things like that, right? So at least that perception is there. Where do we stand now when it comes to human rights and fundamental rights here?
I think we are in a very dangerous place, and I think the danger is a gradual erosion of public space where these type of issues can be spoken about. Compared to the other kind of state of the white man culture, this is even more dangerous because human rights are being seen as a problem now, and that's the earlier human rights was not seen as a problem. It was not seen as a problem. Talking about human rights was dangerous but not problematic. It was not, but here, talking about human rights, talking about protesting, it's becoming, the law is being set against it. So I think in that sense we are moving towards a very, very dangerous situation. I think it's important to reclaim public space, right? So this is a stability ground, right? In the name of stability, we keep everything quiet. So there are people getting convinced that this is right.
We fight that every day. Like there are people who tell us, you guys are a nuisance and inconvenience, right? Like, so economy first, and these are the things that we hear. So I mean, we need a rural government approach to change, right? I mean,
No. Sorry.
No.
Now, this Friday, I think they were the last day. There are 2 bills presented to indefinitely postpone elections. Now, that's unthinkable. That's unthinkable. But it is there, and there are people supporting it. And I'm waiting to see what the position. I think the Attorney General has expressed certain opinions, but I have not looked at it properly. But there are, I think, some grey areas about that opinion. But this is, I mean, these are developments that may be, very, very dangerous.
Right.
And the fact that there are citizens of the country who support it.
The business community. Yes. It's very disappointing to see the captains of industry in this country not being more vocal about the erosion of rights in this country.
Finally, I saw in yesterday's papers I think it is in yesterday's papers, the Chamber of Commerce has finally issued a statement about elections.
Yes. They found their voice?
They found their voice.
Because democracy in Asia is a process. So, I mean, the outcome is what it is, right? People have the right to decide. Just because we might, or some people might not like the outcome, they can't just indefinitely suspend the process. Right? I mean,
just because they don't like the
The
outcome.
other thing that we hear is who else what running. Right? You have fuel and gas. 1 year ago you didn't have that. What are you protesting about now? Can't you be grateful? These are difficult times Sri Lanka is going through. So only person who can put it through is running.
So when we talk about these things, these issues, we are inconvenient. We are like mosquitoes in their ear all the time. So this is the issue we're having, because we are sliding into a very sort of authoritarian, sort of fascistic, neo-fascist kind of a administration, and people are cheering it on, right? I mean, at the same time, not that we have true stability in the sense that people are out of poverty, or if cost of living has come down. None of that has actually happened. More people are in poverty today, right? So, but it's okay for some, right? They feel some form of stability, so they think, look, everything else has to be, take second place. So, yeah. Can I just ask one question? Last official question before we move on. What aspects of international response are you disappointed with? Okay, I'm framing it in a kind of a negative way because I am disappointed. I think we as a group feel that the international community, especially the Western sort of liberal democracies, can speak out a bit more forcefully, right? I mean, if the local accountability mechanisms are not working, then at least we should hope for some accountability from our, international community, because we have certain trade concessions where we have agreed to conditions, and those conditions are also being violated, but the trade, the benefits are still being enjoyed by the country. So that is where this stability, shut up, that angle comes in, are you trying to lose GSP, like that is the kind of argument we hear. So how do you feel about the international response? What disappoints you the most?
Frankly, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I'm quite happy with how the international community has responded. Maybe they were a bit slow to join in, but once they joined in, I think they have and they continue to stand very strongly and closely with me. Even last Friday's hearing, they were present. The US embassy was present. The EU.
Yes, they all observed.
Yes, they all observers were there, and so I think I don't think I'm too unhappy with how the international community has worked, and also I must say the fact that we removed, the fact that the PK is not being used. I think the government has made a decision not to use it, and I think we saw that after May, after last forest, they realized that they are not to use, because on the 7th of June, the Attorney General informed that they are withdrawing all charges under the PPA for those 14 projects. I have a hunch that these are the last 4 people arrested under the PTA.
Do you know how many detainees we have under the PTA right now? Is there any cases that we should be talking about or that we should know about?
I won't be able to give you off the top of my head as to how many detainees are, but I think at the moment there should be around 200 to 300 detainees. Yeah. Mr. Sante has, I think, about 40 to 50.
Still.
So maybe it will be lesser than that. Maybe it's about 100, 150. Yeah. Mr. Sante has about, I think, 50 people still there, and then I think the Tamil political prisoners there are a few more. So I think that's the crowd. And also, I mean, as a law student and student of international law, I've always been critical about international human rights organizations and these meetings in Geneva. What does it mean? This talking and all that. But of course, in my case, I saw that to some extent. The fact that people are talking about it is also a great morale boost. And of course, I think me being granted bail in February had a lot to do with those international pressures. So in that sense, I would say
maybe there are things that we don't see.
Yeah.
But for example, Natasha is under the ICCPR. I mean, the response is fairly muted, right? I mean, maybe case to case, depending on the profile and all that, they will get involved. But as a general,
what you're seeing is, I've been in custody for 2 years. So the international community also had a lot of time to wait and see, and I think it took about, I think it's around September, October. So I was arrested in April, September, October. That lot of the support started building up because they realized 5 months, 6 months, nothing concrete is coming out. And that's when they realized that I think this is just a fake case that is being peddled around.
Yeah. Sure.
I just wanted to doing something. When we talk about the situation, we talk about some things that have come out. Now I heard that in last Friday or something, they had finally this contempt of court. They have filed this contempt of court bill. I mean, that basically accountability, the ability for a person to go into an institution and record a person's, confrontation with a public official can be actually suppressed through that. I mean, it's talking about contempt of court, but when you read that, it's about stopping people from recording anything inside government institutions. I mean, I have gone into police stations and I have caught and publicly exposed corrupted officials doing corrupted and malicious acts, using voice recordings. I call government officials and get them to speak out and get their side of the story and expose to the country how foolish they are. And now what we are seeing is they want to bring an act to prevent that. I mean, this is, where are we going? I mean, nobody is talking about it because nobody understands. It's just contempt of, no, it's not about contempt of court, it is contempt of institution.
No, see what happens, Chirant, I think eventually when these things become law, and they will become law because there's nothing to prevent it with this majority in parliament, until it's enacted or unless somebody is caught in that particular net and it becomes an issue, nobody will talk about it. Then it's too late, then it's already law and it's gone.
Yeah, so I think in one of those interviews, I think Dr. Rehan Munantilekar pointed this out, is that we are now seeing a new breed of laws that are coming out, a new type of legal drafting that we see, that is like wolves in sheep's clothing, right? So we had the Rehabilitation Bureau, came as, okay, we are doing narcotics, people who are addicted to narcotics, we are going to rehabilitate them, but actually it was a anti-Aragalaya rehabilitation bill, right?
Exactly.
But fortunately, there was enough pressure and enough voices being raised against it. The final draft was not as bad as was initially produced.
Right.
Same thing I think has happened with the anti-terrorism bill, right? So it came out. The bill was gazetted just before court vacation, right? And then there was a plan that there was expectation that the lawyers won't be available to challenge it. But I think there was enough pressure. Now the bill has not even seen has not been brought to Parliament at all.
I think
And
also the EU put pressure on that.
EU, I think the international community, everybody was talking about it. And now we have this cancellation of for the postponing of the elections, and now we have this contempt of court. I have not looked at the act in detail, but I'm sure that this is the kind of thing that is going on, and it should be challenged. It should be challenged in court.
So Hejaaz, with all these bills in bad faith coming in and they will become law, do you think we can still have faith in our judicial system? Are the guardrails that are supposed to safeguard us in place? Or should we really worry now? I mean, the executive powers are now bleeding into the judiciary, and the legislature is really not doing its job in good faith and in the interest of the public, right? So should we worry as citizens? Where does it go from here?
Frankly, I think the Supreme Court and the High Court and also Magistrates Court, all the courts have, I mean, you can point to say this was not good or that was not good, but overall, I think they have even in Natasha's case, the High Court judgment, he has, I mean, there is a very fresh thinking that has come in how that has gone in. We saw that in the Vasa Samudari case, order of the magistrate. We saw that in all the Aragalia cases. We saw that in my case. I mean, I saw Mr. Rangadisan and all the magistrates that they were outstanding in the way they approached it. So the judiciary has.
The judiciary will save us.
But more than the judiciary saving us, I think we need to save ourselves, and that is why people like you and the work that you are doing is excellent. And this is, I mean, as you said, we need to maintain these spaces and also reclaim the political space. I mean, for too long, the Tudiriga Saya, the Yaya people have been like dormant and have been happy to sort of allow others to dominate political discussion. But I think now that we need to shift that is a lot to do with the war also. I mean, we had the war and the issues were very too sensitive and for people to sort of discuss it freely. But I think now with things like economic issues, arrest, PTA, which is like affecting everybody across the board, I think we can talk more freely on these issues and we can build more networks and partnerships like we did before.
Right. So we see how nationalism, race, religion, everything becomes a weapon. You know, when there's an election coming and they need to kind of what do you call it, like galvanize the public, or get them frothing at something or the other, right?
We are starting as simmering.
No, that's the word, simmering. You want to get the population simmering, they bring all these topics in. So I don't think any amount of laws can kind of stop that. If anybody wants to bring that into the public discourse, they can do it, and then it can have an effect on people, because these are the fissures that exist in society anyway. They can use it. How do we guard against it?
Well, one thing I think we need to be very clear on hate speech, and that's something that we need to talk about, right? Hate speech
and hateful action.
And hateful action, but hate speech, I mean, it all starts with hate speech. I mean, lots of hate speech that goes on under the radar.
Yeah.
That's number one. We also have TV programs, dramas. Now, I've just brought to my attention that there are sort of dramas being telecast where certain groups are caricaturized, right, and sort of portrayed in a particular way, right? Yes. And also TV channels and the space that they give fair reporting, right? So these are things that these are things that we need to keep talking about. We need to ask certain media channels, how come you do not cover these stories? And also ask these questions from their sponsors, companies that advertise on these programs. How come you sponsor so much of hate? Right now, for example, you had Dr. Shafi's situation, right? And it was carried on from 2 TV channels, in their prime time bulletin TV shows.
Sunday Island main page.
Yeah, and then,
the Divine.
and then who advertises on this?
He ruined that.
We need to ask him, I mean, why are you sponsoring these sponsoring ads?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are in an economy of ideas, right?
So once, I mean, these are things that we have not been talking about in Sri Lanka at all, and we need to start talking about these things, right? We need to start talking about these things, and then maybe we can then create a much more healthier culture, right? I mean, the element of toxicity will also, we don't get a perfect society, but I think we can make it less toxic if we start, putting these pressures and talking things more openly.
Yeah, I think that's something that we have started doing since Taragal. I think what Taragal did for us as individuals is that it heightened our engagement. And now once you start seeing injustice, you see it all the time, everywhere, and now you can't look away.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's our problem to a certain extent. Now, there are a lot of people who are just very comfortable with just looking away and thinking, you know what, I'm quite okay in my bubble. And then the way the media, now if I'm only watching the 9 o'clock news, I get into a bubble, and there's nothing that can penetrate that. So, one of the intentions of this is to try to increase engagement and keep, burst those bubbles. I mean, even 1 or 2 people, we may be having an effect, right? So
Yeah,
1 or 2 people are letting us know, keep talking.
This ripple effect is not that good. If a pretty good example, he falls sick and in hospitalized, suddenly a corruption comes, he's there on the spot. So I mean, I'm sure the ripple effect, there are a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
And it is like he just said it's a good thing that we continue talking about. I want to ask you 1 or 2 things. Dr. Shafi's matter, his case is exonerated. Right? Now, what happens with the case that you said there are so many people, there are fallouts from Tamil issues more than 20-30 years, they are still in, their parents are looking, their case is not, there is no redress, no closure. How, in case it's exonerated or they say, okay, no, nothing there, you go to go, will there be compensation? In your case, if supposing you're exonerated of your last
Not
case.
supposing, I hope so.
One day, so can you, for all that 2 years, right, can ask for this?
Well, technically yes, under the law yes.
And you have to take
I have to go to court. I have to
So
go to court.
then he has to depend on the same system that kept him.
Yeah. Well, that
regress.
Yeah. So basically, at the end of a trial, you have a group of tired people and a team of tired lawyers, depleted resources. Now, money has been spent fighting a case. Your lawyers are tired. Your family is tired. And this is, the day I was released, my mother was saying, there are lots of people saying, we don't want to hear the name Hejaaz Hizbullah because they were tired of hearing this name Hejaaz Hizbullah.
A couple of months ago, a guy was released after 14 years under VGA detention. No apology, no compensation, nobody, not even a letter. He's just released and he has to get on with his life. I mean, I think
14 years.
Yeah, I mean, if we really are serious about system change, and that has to be a whole of system approach, whole of government approach, whole of society approach, all of this needs to be like broken down and remade. I mean, I think just passing laws here and there to fix things, I think might not work, right? I mean, the whole story about new constitution, I mean, these are the conversations we need to have, right? The power of the presidency and all of that. So anyway, anything else to Hejaaz? Hejaaz, thank you so much for coming. I mean, you know, it's really enlightening. Most of us wanted to hear from you anyway because we've really been following your entire saga all this time, and we really hope that you come into the public space because I think this country has a dearth in leadership, right? And you know, who knows? We're trying to convince a few in our group also to do the same. I don't know about me, but
one more thing, Hejaaz, coming back from this thing now, the current constitution as it is, now they are passing laws, like you say, it's like, you know, tin box factory of passing of laws. Okay, we have the legislators doing that because they are passing laws. Can they do that without, you know, I mean, how can they do that? without passing it, I mean having a debate and gazetting and then making it law.
No, but we have, I mean, what are the discussion has been focused on? The bills. But then there is the process, and I think we have, to a great extent, I think the people have been able to use the process to sort of reform those bills and to make them better or more palatable and more constitutional and more human rights oriented than they were in their original form. And a good example might be the rehabilitation bill. The fact that the anti-terrorism bill has not been brought to Parliament. So,
but I mean, for me, Hejaaz, right now, the most clarifying thing this country can do is have an election, because right now we have a government without a mandate really passing laws that are really not in the benefit of the people. So whether we like the outcome, don't like the outcome, whatever it is, we must trust the process. And for that, we must have an election. That will clarify so much. At least there will be a government with a mandate to take whatever actions that are necessary to take this country forward. Right? Because I feel like we are just in a place now, and we find it very hard to sort of come out of that.
yes, I think so. Yeah.
So, anything else to Hejaaz? Tassie, any questions to Hejaaz?
Not really. I just want to close with something, if you don't mind. When I was talking to somebody about the Hejaaz case, there was this very prominent person who said, "Oh, you mean the case without a case?" So I just want to bring that out there.
Absolutely. There's a lot of that. Right? There's a lot of that going on. So just what we normally do is we put slides about like newspaper headlines. Generally what we try to do is talk about the things that happened this week, because there's a fire hose of things that come at us every week. Right. We tend to move on to the next story or the next distraction and not really discuss and digest what. So that's what we normally do. We deviated from that because we're here and we want to hear from you. But there are a couple of things that we want to talk about this quickly. If you don't mind, I know we've gone well over time. Maybe you take another 5 minutes.
Yeah, before you end, I just want to say, thank you and also say good luck. Because the last time I came for the protest or the vigil at Central, there was so much of hate afterwards. So I'm sure you'll have that that coming your way as well.
We're happy to absorb any of that. Not an issue.
We're being paid by NGOs.
Yes. Dollars.
Yeah.
So one of the things this week is the health sector crisis, right? I think these are just a few of the headlines that we've seen this week. We've seen multiple deaths.
Another death.
Lisha, Tassie, you want to quickly talk about it?
There was another death, right? After the Peradeniya incident, there was another death, and then there was a 4-month-old baby died after a routine vaccination. And what is the government doing about this? When are they going to take any action? Right? We have a minister who's...
I mean, I think there are minimum expectations would be that the death penalty should be such.
Exactly.
Right? Because so here, I mean, accountability is somebody else's problem, and also the whole mRNA process, the violation, what is it? NMRA, these emergency purchases of drugs, substandard, where the batches are having issues and so on. I mean, we are still not clear, right? Because lots of information coming at us, but people are actually dying now as a result. So this is not usual, right? Shirafta, anything you want to talk about?
I just want to talk about this MRI.
Yeah.
Do you remember that there was a database that had disappeared?
Deleted. Yeah.
You know, this is all falling in line. I mean, this is not something that has, popped up because of this crisis or this thing. This is executed in a very organized fashion to disrupt the local health system. I mean, that is what they try to do with the Vature Pathirena virus. Vature Pathirena, that also caused dissent about the health system. And the funny fact, now I saw one of the doctors, one activist doctor coming out into the media saying, "Meka me India ve waradak nemei me meka me bala behetin me order karapu hinda," because they are saying it's not a problem of India, but it's a issue where they have actually bought low quality stuff. I mean, do you as India, as a country, do they manufacture low quality things that kill people?
I mean, to export such things into our country, importing is one, leave it aside. Why did they export such low quality? And you are making those things for dogs, cats and animals or cows or something like that. Low quality drugs that kill people. Why are they even manufactured in that country then? I mean, there's a popular activist, I'm going to say, Israel, Rami Kumudesh, coming and trying to defend India. I mean, they should be, those companies should be held accountable in criminal law in this country for making that type of medications, if that is true. I mean, not to defend any country here.
So in these cases,
Shiranta, don't bite the hand that feeds, huh? We are 12.
Let Lisha continue.
So,
but
we have a 12-year credit line from there. Oh my gosh, we I don't know.
No, but
More than petrol.
But that is
more
a fair
than
point. That is a fair point,
so
because
much.
maybe we
Food.
in your or question it, or even try to look for accountability there, because we are worried that the money will run out or the credit line will run out.
Personally, I don't think trying to hold India responsible is the right thing.
We should have tested.
We should have tested it.
Tested.
It's because we're bypassing our testing process and whatever that these kind of things happen.
This is
the
a
registered companies that the Indian government.
no.
But we have done it outside,
We should be having
and we have not gone to companies registered with our.
Lisha, this is an issue that has been happening over 2-3 years. This time it's emergency purchase with the health ministry. When during the fuel crisis, it was emergency purchase for fuel, spot tenders. When it was a power crisis, it was emergency purchase of thermal power. When it was, this is
and also a couple of weeks ago, Hejaaz, we had Tushan Gunawardhan here telling us how the CWC function, CWC, right, Supply was functioning, and CWE, how they were relabeling like expired goods. I mean, public interest is not in the equation, right? It's just on pure corruption. Just wherever you look.
Yes. What happened with gas? People died.
People died. 7 people died. Composition changed. So, yeah. So let's move on to the other one. Alicia, you want to just talk about this?
Briefly, the former Minister Dayasri Jayasekara, General Secretary of the SLFP, alleges that 99
tons of crude oil was bought at at $51 and charged the CPC was charged $82. $100 million profit for them.
Yeah.
So who is making this money? I mean, this country is bankrupt and they're continuing to rob.
The corruption is
the more important issue is what will happen to the application 6 months from now.
Nothing. Nothing will happen.
Diary of allegation made and then review it every 6 months.
So we have that. Chris has that. So now, for example, the issues, the garlic scam issue or the composition change issue, there is publicly available evidence which Tushan released, which is, you can just go to his Twitter feed and it's all there, board papers, including board papers and so on. But no investigation. But a fake video gets released, falsely edited video or selectively edited video gets released, and a comedian is arrested immediately because a bunch of priests went and made a case, right? So where is equal justice? Where is accountability, right? This is a question we keep asking week after week, and that is why we continue to be here, right? This is why we need to do this.
Basically, we are watching because why do we pick? We always go with the flow, and we vote the worst out of the best, or rather the best out of the worst. Exactly. So we are getting there. And mind you, for the last 76 years, there is not one single allegation of case against any ministers.
Let me answer that. It's easy to blame people and say, why are you voting people in, right? So people buy the products that they're sold, right? That are marketed to them. Sometimes you have to choose between, it's binary choices, right? So people pick who they think is the best out of a bad lot. Gota, for example, we knew everything about Gotabaya Rajapaksa in 2019 that we know today. But including the very, like the Lasanta Vikramasinge allegations and all of that, right? There's a mountain of evidence which hasn't been followed through, but it's there, right? But he was brought in with the Vietmaga, a beautiful campaign. There was a song and a dance, and it was a sophisticated marketing campaign on the backs of the Easter bombing, on the backs of Islamophobia and the hate that was created. So people buy that. Right now, are we going to say 6.9 million people and then just put the blame on the people? People buy the products that are sold to them, right? Yeah.
You say they are projected and all that, right? Sanna, very simple, very simple. So now we are doing the same thing, bringing awareness, right?
Right.
Now,
We are doing
the
the work of awareness, but also the system bottom up from the education. There's so much that needs to be fixed in this country, right? Chris, you always say, we talk about our literacy rate. Literacy is not just reading and writing, right? It's your critical thinking, right?
IQ.
So your intelligence quotient, your emotional quotient, right? I mean, just because product is sold as us, obviously we shouldn't just be buying it. But if there's an election tomorrow, you have the choices that are there. That's it. You don't have a magical unicorn to come and save us.
People have to make
People have objective decisions.
Choices.
Right.
Yes.
So I think Aragale was an opportunity for generational change, which we lost, right? Which we lost. Let's admit it, right? We lost that opportunity because we have somebody here now who fights for the incumbent culture, right? We are not going to see the change. That's why I say an election is clarified. We need to have that now. It might be, we might have to make that change incrementally. We might be starting something today that we might not live to see the end, right? But we have to start. These conversations have to be there.
What you say is right. Now, we can't change the next election.
Right.
It will take generations to change.
Right.
It will at least take generations that according to the system change that we want.
Absolutely.
But that needs to happen. We need to have conversations like this and bring it up.
So Lisha, I'll give you the last word on this. Your quote of the week.
Well, actually, it's Martin Luther King Jr. and it's almost like it's addressed to our president. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him that it is right.
We need people of good conscience.
We need people
to come and take.
And we hope that our liberal Democrat that Ranil was, some of that comes out and
reawaken that man.
Reawaken that man in some way.
Right, exactly. So can we, because now now that, okay, well,
Are you the first person who made
clearly it's stinging him. So Chris, can we finish? So Chris, since Hejaaz is also here and Hejaaz hasn't seen this, can we let Chris finish things off today? Let's remind people why we keep doing this.
We're not taking too long?
No, just do it.
There's something
just run through it fast.
Okay, there's something actually a little bit more important. Maybe I can run through that also if everybody doesn't mind.
Yeah.
It's something to do with what he was saying. He was saying people need to make informed choices. I'm going to admit something today, probably that I'm actually ashamed of. But I'll tell you, it really concerns him. I was a close friend of mine. I was discussing with her and saying, it's sometime it is about 2 or 3 years ago. What a shame what they've done to Hejaaz. And she was like, this lady told me, friend, Christopher, I can't tell you what it is, but I know for a fact that the government has direct involvement, that Hejaaz was involved with the Easter attacks.
Direct information.
Direct. That is why he is there. So recently I spoke. That's the thing. So at that moment, Lisha, I thought to myself, maybe he is. And recently I messaged her and I said, it's a shame, that he was falsely accused. Nothing from. I want to tell her that. So the point I'm trying to come to is, we keep saying, people need to be educated, Now I consider myself, I've been educated in Columbus School. I think I have had a little bit more educated majority of people, of a certain level. And if I can buy into that, I'll tell you one more thing. I'm even more ashamed to say this actually. Easter attacks. After the Easter attacks, I was so convinced, that this was I'm a Catholic, right? I live in front of a church. I was so convinced, that the Muslims are behind this thing, they kill praying Catholics, I told some friends of mine, I'm not going to cite another cool panel. I'm not going to, you know, his friends were listening to me and said, don't be an idiot, right? I was like, no, that's my decision. I'm not going. You know, so, and you know, and these guys, I said, no, you know, that, you know, they are definitely behind this thing, you know. So, what the point I'm trying to come to, it's very easy for you to say, you know, people need to make informed decisions. Now, if me, who has access to the internet, who has access to TV stations, you know, who has access to friends, who has friends from different communities, can come to such a stupid decision, right? I am ashamed of that. But I did come to that decision at that point. Imagine the people.
Chris, you're a very rare person.
No,
actually,
but
like,
no,
no, seriously,
no, but bro, what I'm just saying, no, what is dangerous?
Yeah.
You think of the people far away, you know, from say Giranduru Kotte, or who do not have Muslims and Hindus and Boras in their classroom, who only see, you know, Gama Pansagar. You know, that's all they see. How easy it is for them to believe this thing. And our politicians they may be stupid, they may have no education after their O-levels, but they are very smart on playing on these things with people, you know.
And the role of the media,
so,
I mean, all of
so,
that.
So it is very dangerous, you know.
Going back to the villagers, the access to the media.
Yes, the role of the media.
That's the thing. That's the thing, Isha. So I'm saying, you know, if how can you come and say people need to elect? You know, now in Colombo, from the Pohot tour, Sarath Veerasekara was elected with the highest number of votes. Yeah. And before he was put there by, apparently the stories, he was put there by Basil because they want to break the votes from the previous person who got the most number of votes, Vimal Veeravansa. He's also a racist. No? So Colombo,
they traffic in racism.
No, Colombo, where you will have people with better access. Yeah. You know, so how it is such a hard thing to do to change his mindset. You know. Yeah. So I think
it's hard and it's a very complex case. But what you're doing is on the right track.
Thank you. I think that's a good note for us to end. Yes. So I think Chris made a good point, right? I think let's leave it on that because we've been doing. We can pick it up next week.
Yeah,
we can pick it up next week.
I think human beings, and this is something that I always say, human beings are driven or motivated by self-interest. Human beings are driven and motivated by self-interest. Underneath lies the beast. It can be ego, hatred, anything. So, what people are feeling, they generally, even from our parliament to the villages, all the same. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks. So we'll excuse Chris today, right? We'll pick it up next week. But thank you so much. I think we've gone well over like an hour. Hejaaz, thank you for being with us today. It was very enlightening for us, and we love to hear your story. And we wish you all the very best in the whatever lies ahead, and that the cases come to a satisfactory conclusion in your favor, because we're all rooting for you. Chiranta, Imran, Manik, Leisha, Tassie, Chris, thank you so much. Anu and CK, thank you for help. Thank you for putting this together as always. So day 204 at GGY is a wrap, and we'll be back at our street corner for day 205. Timbrigasyaya in front of Health Guard next to St. Teresa's Church, and on Sunday, and back here again next Wednesday, where we will hopefully be joined by Salia Pires to discuss various things. So thank you so much and good night. Thank you so much.